Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Friday, the 1st of December. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barry. Late one last night, Joshua.
Yeah.
Firstly, you were waiting for, it seemed like about 3 weeks for a taxi. Did you finally get home?
Yeah, I did. You're right. I was waiting for 3 weeks for a taxi, and waiting in that cold did not help my flu, which I'm still unable to get over, Derek. But yeah, apart from that, I'm not bad. Obviously, not the best performance to kind of talk through this morning. But here we are nonetheless to try and break it apart. So we'll see where we can get with it.
Yeah, plenty to talk about after what was a bitterly disappointing night at Ibrox last night. Before we do that, folks, just a bit of podcast admin, if you like. Firstly, big shout out to our podcast sponsors, the MPH Group. If you're looking for a new boiler, perhaps, these are the guys to call. They've got a fantastic winter promotion on just now. They offer flexible finance options as well. The all-important links are in the description below. And also, this is the final day you can take advantage of our amazing Black Friday offer. That's the best ever deal we've had on the Rangers Review to date, where you can subscribe for an entire year for just £12. It's a massive saving. You just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe to sign up. So many of you have already done so thank you very much for that. We hope you enjoy the content. I'm sure you will. So much stuff on the website, folks, that you can keep yourself entertained with. Joshua's got in-depth tactical pieces. We're going to discuss a bit about the game last night in detail that you can find on there. Chris Jack has got a very good opinion piece on there this morning. I've bunged the link in the comment section. Do go and check it out. We've got Stevie had his weekly fan column yesterday, which was a great read as ever. Martin Ramsey also contributes with historical feature pieces now and again, which is a wonderful read as well. I'm sure all of you who are aware of Martin are well aware of his incredible writing style. So there's plenty to keep you entertained on the website, Joshua. And of course, we've got the app as well. So make sure you get the app downloaded, folks, if you've got an Apple or an Android phone. So yeah, £12 for an entire year. Sign up now before it's too late, Joshua.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, today is probably not the day where you want to read lots of.
Well, it didn't help last night.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, listen, as we've said all week, Derek, subscriptions drive our ability to do these videos every morning and amongst lots of other work. So if you want to support us, if you want to get access to what we believe is really top quality work, hopefully all the time, and we're not just saying that because we think it is, we're saying that because, we believe a subscription model enables us to go and do hopefully some more in-depth stuff and answer some more in-depth questions, whether that be tactical stuff or interviews or anything in between. So as you say, links are in the description. That's the best way, most tangible way to support us. And hopefully you enjoy reading stuff on the website, even if, as mentioned, today is perhaps not the most enjoyable day for people to be reading about Rangers after, let's be honest, Eric, they absolutely blew an opportunity to get into the Europa League knockout stages last night, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, it is still all to play for, but that was an opportunity missed, it's fair to say. Lots of comments coming in. Ducky says, sorry, you had a wasted trip to Ibrox, Derek. It wasn't wasted. I know it was a tough watch last night, but it's always a delight to head up the road. So, yeah, I did enjoy my trip. Hopefully, maybe visiting the museum at some point today. Have you been to the museum, Joshua, before we talk about the game?
I've not. I believe Chris might have, but I've not.
Yes.
So I look forward to a brief tour from yourself if you do make it along.
Yeah. Just on last night, then let's delve into it. So many talking points to discuss. Myself and Johnny were on last night to give us our instant reaction to the game after Philippe Clement had conducted his press conference. I've got to say, I've seen a lot of comments on social media and even in the press room as well, Joshua. He's been very impressive, Philippe Clement, in his press conferences so far. Didn't think he had his best of nights, not only with his team selection last night, but some of his post-match comments were quite puzzling. We'll discuss the team and the display. First of all, I thought he got the team selection wrong. I was surprised to see Sam Lammers in there. He did give an explanation as to why Todd Cantwell continues to play on that right-hand side, whereas Scott Wright is unavailable. He's short of options out there. He did concede that Cantwell's best position is as a number 10 or coming in off the left. But I thought that the team selection wasn't the best, and we've seen that with Cantwell getting hooked around 35 minutes into the game. I think when we've seen Ross McCausland getting warmed up and getting stripped and readied for action, I think the general consensus was Sam Lammers' time was up. However, I think a few raised eyebrows when Todd Cantwell was replaced, but I think after the Aris goal, which came from Cantwell losing possession and a long ball through a gap in the Rangers' defence, I think that was the final straw for the manager, and he replaced Cantwell with McCausland, who was bright. Of course, great to see him get his first senior goal and his first goal in Rangers colours, but Rangers unable to push on from there, Joshua. So many underperforming players yesterday, and I don't think Rangers deserved anything more than a point from the game. What was your take on it all?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, over the course to take Aris clearly aren't as bad as I think sometimes they've been given not credit for, the opposite of credit for over the last few weeks, because they've taken 5 points off Rangers over the course of 2 games. But I think if you'd said to Rangers at the start of the group you're only going to take 1 point from 6 against Aris, they'd have understandably thought that's nowhere near good enough. And it's not. And now if they don't play Europa League football after Christmas, which they put themselves into a position last night where they absolutely should have done, they still had opportunities to do that, even though it was a kind of below par performance. Then they only have themselves to blame. In terms of Clermont, I think Derek, that look, he started better than people thought he would. You're going to have off nights as a manager. You're definitely going to have off nights when you inherit the situation he has inherited. No manager is infallible. I agree that I think team selection wise, last night he probably got it wrong. It's obviously easy for us to say that in hindsight, and he went with the same front four that did well against Sparta Prague, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out last night. So I don't think too much of that personally for me is on Clermont, just because I think that when a new manager comes into a club, there's going to be these types of results. The difficulty is he inherits this overall situation, which makes it such a difficult backdrop to walk into. And I think that the Cantwell, will obviously get into Cantwell and McCausland, and it's probably worth noting that fair play to McCausland. I mean, he only 2 months ago, Derek, I think the Aris game, when he was brought off the bench by Stephen Davis, someone can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I believe that was his first appearance since the Hearts game for the first team way back, not the season before, but the season before that. Yeah. So then to 2 months later, of made your international debut for your country, made your full debut for from the start for your club, scored your first goal, scored in European competition. And the reason I think, again, we'll get into it, but the reason I think McCausland's done well is because he has simply done that. He's taken his opportunity. He's not looked overawed. He's had the confidence and the assurance to trust in his ability when he gets into situations like he did for that goal last night, which have allowed him to be trusted and effectively be called upon by the manager. But yeah, I think the Cantwell substitution, as we'll get into, it kind of sums up Philippe Clermont's called it a puzzle, trying to constantly solve who he plays in what position as he tries to adapt this squad to the style of football he wants to play. But something that we've talked about repeatedly, Derek, this is a squad that's been built in a certain manager's image. Now it's another manager that's in control of it. You have someone like Cantwell, who's front and centre of the last team, clearly at the moment is not of this new team. You have a lack of options in the middle, largely because you're playing a midfield 2 instead of a 3. So that impacts the players you can play in there, as Clermont said a couple of weeks ago at his press conference. And then these kind of systemic issues play out in moments like that Cantwell substitution, where Clermont is trying to work with what he has in regards to the squad. He's playing Cantwell, as he conceded last night, in a position that's not going to get probably the very best out of him, but there's wider circumstances as to why he's been playing there. And that creates what was quite a flashpoint, and I think now is quite a talking point about what happens next, what happens on Sunday, where does he play? Because it would be different if Cantwell had come off and the player in that number 10 position had a really good game. But obviously the kind of flip side of that is that Sam Lammers continues to really not show much on the pitch, I think, to put it bluntly, and that's the backdrop, I think, of the frustration around that as well. So yeah, lots to discuss, but I do think that Cantwell substitution kind of speaks volumes of the situation that Clermont inherits, the reality of the imbalance of this squad that we've spoke about for so long. I wrote about it in a piece about the midfield last week. Not only do Rangers lack depth in the wings because their squad has not been built for that, but the type of type of midfield too that Clement now wants to play. Again, this is a midfield that's been built to play a central midfield 3. So, yeah, a constant puzzle for him to solve. He's managed to do that so far, and last night, definitely after the disappointment of last week, he wasn't able to do that.
Yeah, just on Cantwell, a few comments coming in. I can't see him playing there on Sunday. I think if he's not playing centrally, he doesn't play at all for me. And I know he's not on form at this moment in time. And the crowd were getting frustrated. He did lose the ball at a number of occasions, but he wasn't anywhere near as bad as Sam Lammers. I was surprised he stayed on the pitch after half time, I've got to be honest, because that was another dreadful showing from him. Rangers need so much more from him, it defies belief. Let's get to some of the comments that were coming in. Neil McLean, just on Cantwell. Do you think that Cantwell has an attitude problem, or is it simply frustration? And there was a point, James Skeen, morning James, he says Cantwell was brought off because he didn't listen to instructions. That's what Philip Clement alluded to in his press conference. He was telling them to go out wide and he was coming inside, which he didn't like. But I think it was a result of that goal being conceded. I think that was him ready to his patience had run out after that, Josh, and that's why the decision was made. He's got a man management job now, because I can't imagine Todd Cantwell would be too happy about being brought off in that first half. That's a big decision for the manager. Does Cantwell have is there a deep lying problem there, do you think? Do you think Cantwell is a Philip Clement player?
I think Cantwell's a bit of a maverick, and again, when you speak to people who have worked with him throughout his career, that's the word that comes up. I think that it's easy to look at someone like Cantwell, who has, you're right, the comment's right. Clement said he didn't listen to instructions, and that he wanted him to stay wide. You consider the role that Cantwell was brought in to play less than a year ago, and it was completely about go and get the ball where you want, play a free role. Beale said that, Cantwell said that. So I don't know, Derek. It's what is the line between Cantwell maybe deliberately saying that stuff that I'm not going to listen to what the manager says, because you look at what he was saying a couple of weeks ago after the Europa League game against Sparta where he scored. I don't think he was going out to probably deliberately defy what the manager was saying. Maybe it is just sometimes instinctive. Again, they've not had much time on the training pitch. It was only a couple of months ago that his role was to go wherever he deemed fit and to kind of be that creative profile for the squad, and that's the type of player that he is anyway. So I think that's an important point. I've got an example of the goal, because you're right. I mean, Clement went absolutely mental on the touchline after he lost the ball there. But in the piece, and I think it's in the comment section, I wrote a piece, I think after the Aris game, about why Cantwell's playing on the right, and it just basically said, Clement's identified apparently the strength of his left foot. Playing Cantwell on the right, cutting inside against defences that are set, it's not optimal for him, especially when the opposition back five need to be stretched and the centre becomes too busy and Clement wants width. The angles available to work with are more restrictive for Cantwell driving away from the right-hand side instead of opening up the pitch on his favoured side. And if you look at the goal there, the goal that Rangers conceded, right, this is where Cantwell concedes. This is where he gets the ball initially. So first I want to talk about why I think what is quite obvious, why it's not going to get the best out of Cantwell, and then maybe we can come on to discuss, well, why is he not playing in the middle? If you get someone like McCausland in this example, or a natural right winger, or even Cantwell on the left, they can go two ways. But I think in these situations, he's not someone who, you don't want him really as an isolated dribbler, I think, in bigger spaces. I think he's a bit more of a reactive dribbler in kind of tighter spaces of the pitch when he can combine with teammates. So, number one, I think you limit his options when he's wide by the touchline. Maybe he should play Cifuentes in down the line here, and I spoke about that before the game, that was one thing that Cifuentes might offer, but we didn't really see much of it. So he drives in field. Again, when he's not passing on his right foot here, he's passing on his left foot. I think that limits his options, because he's maybe not playing with his head up as much. He can't open the pitch up as much. And we saw this at moments against Aberdeen as well. And what that also means is that, as you see when he gets tackled here, instead of driving inside and being able to kind of protect the ball with his left foot or his left leg, he's not got any protection on it. He's carrying the ball on his right. It's easier for opponents to intercept. So I think, there's just quite a few reasons why that position is not going to get the best out of him. And we can conclude that now. If he's playing in a game like Aberdeen at the weekend where there's space and he can move inside, that's different. When you're playing against a quite deep team, as Aris were at points last night, early on when they're only playing one striker up front, I think it's different, because he can't go two ways really on the right wing. If you can compare that, there's an interesting comment that 𝐁𝐥𝐚𝐜 made in the mix zone when you're playing a more natural player on the right. So he scores his goal, 𝐁𝐿, brilliantly taken goal. But then he has this opportunity where he probably should do better. And he said that in the mix zone after, right, where he should pick a man out. But he said on this opportunity here, he said, I knew Aris were going to overcommit when I had the ball on my right foot. So I cut back inside, but two of the defenders managed to get back and make the block. So if you look at the difference here, 𝐁𝐿 can go two ways. He is a two-way winger on the right, which just opens up more opportunities. It means that his feet were fantastic in this example. And yes, he should play the ball, but I think you'll probably let him off in the overall context of last night.
Yeah.
Cantwell doesn't have that same option on the right-hand side. And I just think that overall that proves a bit of a limiting factor. In my opinion, I still think he's not really shown it this season, but I still think he's got a claim to be Rangers' best player. Certainly, I think you can say at the moment he's going to give you more than Lammers in that central position. Why has he not been playing there? Is it down to tactical instruction? Is it down to maybe stuff that we don't see or don't appreciate? Things like duels that maybe Lammers is providing, although he didn't do that last night. I'm not saying he did. I think Cantwell, I can also understand his frustration because he's come in and he's played so well last season. He's played in a role that, after a really difficult couple of years at Norwich, let's not forget, where he probably feels like he had a couple of wasted years. And then he's come up, he's found this role which has been perfect for him, and then that's all changed. Again, you look at the last few weeks, and he's to me seems pretty bought into Clement's project. He's played on the right in an unfamiliar position for a number of weeks. And obviously, it'll be interesting to see now what happens off the back of that with Clement. Does he now use this as an opportunity to put him in that number 10 position? Does he keep him out the squad? I think this Rangers team kind of needs Todd Cantwell, especially when you look at that last night. And yes, he didn't play well. Yes, he hasn't played that well this season. Even if, as mentioned, I don't think he's in his kind of perfect environment. But I also think there's probably bigger culprits in terms of underperformance. And what you know with Cantwell is he's always going to take the ball, always going to try stuff. I'd like to see him now moved into that central position, because I think last night was a demonstration that you're just not going to get the best version of Cantwell when you're playing wide on the right.
Interesting stuff. Lots of comments coming in. William White with a point. If he keeps playing Lammers and playing Cantwell out of position, we will win nothing. And the point on the goal as well, Tam McCann with a fair point. I think he says Cantwell lost the ball, yes, but there was more opportunities to prevent the goal. Again, that ball over the top, Joshua. Clement did say it is a concern of his. It's something he's hoping to address. He is showing the players videos. Defensively, low Rangers losing cheap goals, as we witnessed on Sunday. Ditto last night as well. In fact, Aris could have scored more goals as well. There's another opportunity in the corners. I touched on this with Johnny last night. There's no marking for me. He needs to get in the bin in that second half. It's have heart palpitations whenever Rangers don't mark up. But there you go. But defensively, I know it was a different backline tonight in terms of the last night, two centre-backs in Davis and Suter that haven't played recently. Can you see Goldson and Balogun coming back in for Sunday?
Someone tweeted me before last night, am I the only one who's not fussed about Goldson being there? And I think the kind of the general comment with Goldson always seems to be you notice when he's not there.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that comment. I think it was from Tom. I missed the name.
Yeah, Tam. Yeah.
Yeah, Tam. I mean, there's plenty more opportunities to prevent that goal. One of the opportunities probably is that Cantwell tries to win the ball back instead of reacting to the referee, which maybe is one of the reasons that Clement gets frustrated. Yeah. But yeah, I totally agree with that. He lost the ball and he didn't lose the ball in a great situation, but it's not as if he lost the ball on the edge of his own box. So yeah, I think Goldson was in the team that conceded a poor goal at the weekend, Derek, but I do think that as a general rule of thumb, the defence tends to look better when he's kind of at the centre of it.
Yeah, let's get to a few of the comments coming in. First of all, it was great to meet a few Rangers review viewers and subscribers heading up the road yesterday, including Rab Harris, who says, good morning, and nice to bump into Derek from father and son, Thurso and Essex. That is a jaunt to go and watch Rangers from both sides of the UK. So yeah, fantastic to see you both. That was brilliant stuff. And George, who lives down in Lancashire, said, arrived home this morning at 2 a.m. after a cold and hard watch last night at Ibrox, but we follow on. Absolutely superb stuff. There's an interesting point as well. Seen José Cifuentes has come in for some criticism, Joshua. He had his first start under Philip Clement on Sunday against Aberdeen. I felt he grew into the game after Pretty poor first half, I've got to say. However, he was poor last night. Now, he wasn't the only one. I'm struggling to see what he adds to this Rangers team. He was said to take Rangers to the next level. Just don't see it. Is it because he's perhaps not playing in his proper position? How do Rangers get the best out of him, or is it simply another bad signing, do you think?
Yeah, again, it's a signing that was made with a different style of football in mind. You see, if I go back to this clip here, where is it? If this one here, Derek, you see the type of run that Cifuentes is kind of making in that kind of right half space. I think that's what he's good at. What his role was meant to be. Someone who could play on of Beale's system, play on the right hand side, sufficient defensive quality, but wasn't maybe going to help you build play, because I don't think that's a strength. That's one of the reasons I think Rangers have been looking so direct, especially in the last couple of games, because they've not got a Rask and they've not got the means to progress the ball really through the centre of the pitch. But I think he's meant to kind of be this auxiliary right centre midfielder who has a good final ball, I think, and you've seen that in flashes in the right kind of half space. But it's quite specific. I don't think, and that's why I asked Clement this question. I asked him that question at press conference last week, and he kind of gave a broad smile and laughed, and I waited a response. But he then went on to talk about the kind of midfield puzzle he had, because he said, you're right, there's different profiles here with Ryan Jack not being in the squad. And last night's probably an example of that. There was one moment where I think he lost the ball maybe 3 or 4 times in the space of 2 or 3 minutes. And and looked at. There's games where I think he's looked a little bit off the pace. And at Aberdeen, I agree with you. I thought he was steady. He was fine. He actually used the ball relatively well. Did okay in his duels. Didn't kind of set the header alight, but I don't think he was a liability. But last night, I don't think he had a good game. At Lundstram, I think, had a lot of space to cover, and he just seemed to kind of build more consistently in a back three as the game wore on. So. The difficulty is, Derek, who else you playing there? I know people have said Bailey Rice, and that's probably a fair shout. But again, is Rice going to play that higher running midfield position? When we've seen him play, and we've seen him play more consistently in the academy, it's as a number 6. It's kind of dictating play and getting on the ball deep. That's a different role to when it's the one that we've seen Jack Raskin or Lasserly Cifuentes play, which is about running high, being kind of a number 8, the higher player in that double pivot position. So over the next couple of weeks, until Jack and Raskin are back, and it remains to be seen when that is the case, be interested to see what the manager does there, because it's another example of a kind of tactical change he's made and a squad that's not really built for what he wants to do in there.
No, and I've got to say I'm concerned. I mean, there's 10 games now until the winter break. Huge games coming up for Rangers in all competitions. Looking ahead, he was asked about the prospect of going to Seville and needing a positive result over there, and 3 days later having the League Cup final. I don't think that suits Rangers, Joshua, given the fact that Aberdeen, I know they're in Europe, but it's a dead rubber. They're at home, and they can. It's better preparation for them, but that is something that I think is going to be a headache for Philippe Clement. I just don't see Rangers winning the remaining 10 games coming up now. I know when we came back from the international break, there was 12 matches in store. They've dropped points in the opening 2 games. Do you see this team going on a run? What needs to change, do you think? And I've seen a lot of comments coming in saying there's not enough winners in that team. What needs to happen? It does, of course, he has been hamstrung. He did say last night in his press conference with regards to injuries. We're not expecting too many players back for Sunday. Unfortunately, we'll have the players that are not eligible for Europe back, which is a plus, I'd imagine. But what needs to change for Rangers to not only get a result on Sunday against a St Mirren side who are doing well under Stephen Robinson, but beyond, big trips coming up. I've got for Park Tynecastle on the horizon, not to mention the trip across the city as well. What has to change for you?
Well, Clement said a few times when things have been going well over his first month or 2 in the job that he will await and see the reaction when things go badly. Yes. So I guess it remains to be seen. He doesn't strike me as someone. He strikes me as someone who will be ruthless and will not fall into the trap of keeping certain players around if he does not believe that they're going to get him where they want to be. I think in isolation last night, Rangers were really poor, probably still could have won the game. We spoke about the Aberdeen game at length. The difficulty is you only kind of earn that one of those, maybe more the weekend than last night, but you only earn that kind of one of those days excuse if you don't have one of those days regularly, which Rangers have had one of those days far too regularly, especially over the last couple of seasons. Hearts away is a big game next week. It's a game that Rangers have tended to do well in over the last number of years, kind of since Gerrard's second season, where they seem to get beat there every single time they went to Tynecastle. 2 home games in between that. Still a potential to, of course, go and win the League Cup, which they need to do. The difficulty is last night, though, Derek, you give yourself a prime opportunity to get into the Europa League last 32 or last 16. Even now, Rangers could still do that if Sparta don't go and win at Aris, depending on the result there. That will obviously impact what Rangers need at Betis, and Betis haven't had a great group themselves. Rangers beat them, but it's going to be a different game away from home. So this is, I guess, the test for Clement after the new manager bounce, and one that he's kind of previewed himself. As mentioned, I think that the criticism of him last night, people are obviously completely entitled to that. I think there's going to be these type of games when a new manager inherits the type of situation that he did. The question is, how do you not end up back in that same situation? And that's why you need a manager to do an exceptional job. And the wider questions about director of football, the wider questions about January recruitment, and the wider questions being asked back about this summer's recruitment all still need to be asked to make sure that doesn't happen. But yeah, we'll wait and see, because that's something that Clement has kind of previewed himself, hasn't he? And St Mirren at home at the weekend. I think personally, I don't know what you think, but if he was to put Cantwell at number 10 and almost not quite hold his hands up, but to a degree say, right, that was for a time, that was to help the team. Yeah, I was seeing if I could get the best out of this player. I was seeing what if I could, trust McCausland. I think McCausland has now shown more than most of his teammates, and definitely merits a start at the weekend. So I'd pitch him in there. Would like to see Cantwell in that number 10 position. Decisions like that would maybe kind of immediately not change the mood, but impact it somewhat, because you're right. When you're playing players who aren't popular and aren't being seen to make positive impacts, and then you're taking off someone in Cantwell who, again, yes, he's not had a good season. Yes, he did play a poor part for that goal, but he's also someone that the kind of supporters, I think, have taken to so quickly, even if he hasn't done it over a number of months due to injury and kind of other circumstances. So intrigued to see what he does in that position. He's someone who's very intentional about his man management, as we covered in interviews just last week with his long-term assistant, someone who puts a lot of thought into that. So maybe he believes to get the best out of Cantwell, he needs to kind of provoke that type of reaction out of him. But we'll wait and see. There's enough games to know to suggest, Eric, that we'll find out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we certainly will. Ross with the point here, just on the number 10, he says this: Cantwell done enough to merit a start ahead of Lawrence in the number 10 role, Joshua. I think Lawrence, he is managing his minutes. He did say this, the manager, after the game. He's just coming back from an injury. In hindsight, yeah, you start him, but you don't want him breaking down again, then you're losing him for a number of weeks. So I think it's a delicate one, that. But wouldn't mind Lawrence. I mean, he came on for Lammers later than I would have liked, I've got to admit. But I can see Lawrence playing a part on Sunday. I want to discuss Abdallah Sima, Joshua, because he's been off the boil recently. Clement discussed this in his post-match press conference. He says his missus has just had a baby, so he's not had much sleep. And he also said there's a number of other players having babies this month and January, which is going to be a bit of a problem for him. So first of all, congratulations to Abdallah and all the Rangers players who will become fathers soon. However, on the pitch side of things, is that something to think about? Should Abdallah Sima maybe be taken out the team? Now, Rabbi Matondo came on for him last night. I think he had his best of games, gave the ball away on a few occasions. But is it now time to give Rabbi an opportunity over there on the left-hand side of the forward line?
Yeah, I think more widely, I've seen a lot of comments last night about why were Rangers so direct and why were they missing out in the midfield. Again, I think it's just kind of part of a systemic issue. Clement obviously feels he wants to be a bit more aggressive and get the ball forward quickly. He's playing with the limitations of someone like Barisic at left back, as we've discussed repeatedly, who, if you're keeping him deep in the build-up, there's only, I think, certain things he can do. And one of those is a direct ball to Sima, who has his physical prowess that allows him to maybe latch on to passes that he should not, or always make it difficult for his fullback. But obviously the byproduct of not always playing players who are going to keep the ball and progress the ball is that sometimes it can swing the other way, and it's difficult to probably find that balance somewhere in the middle. If you have someone like 𝐁𝐥𝐤 𝐅𝐫𝐢𝐝 in there, or even 𝐷ivan Yilmaz, although he's, we've discussed him 100 times before, and he's got his traits that work against him as well, then maybe have a little bit more, a few more options on the ball. And I think the left-hand side is kind of, been the way that they play has been designed with that in mind. But Rabbi Matondo, he didn't have his best impact off the bench last night. Totally agree, Derek.
Could Cantwell be an option over there?
Yeah, maybe it could be. But again, I think the reason he's not done that is because if you look at how Rangers play on the left-hand side, look at the passes that Barisic is playing under pressure when Clement doesn't want him to go back. He's pinging it over the top for Sima to run onto. You need a physical profile in there. If you look at, for example, the way that Goldson's playing the ball diagonally to go over the midfield at points, is because Sima and Danilo have good movement off one another, and without a kind of physical target man up top, Sima gives you that on the left-hand side. So again, I think this one of these wider considerations about the team that maybe we fail to think about sometimes. Wouldn't be opposed to seeing Cantwell there. I would like to see him probably in that number 10 position. It's intriguing to see what happens next, Derek, because he again, one of, if not Rangers' best players, hasn't been playing there obviously for a reason. Is it Clement? Has it just been for a time? Has Clement seen enough about other individuals to think, right, I need to pitch him in here now? We'll wait and see. But again, I think that left-hand side is probably, there's wider reasons why Sima's playing there. I agree he's kind of went off the boil a little bit in the last couple of weeks. We'll see if Matondo's given a chance against St Mirren at the weekend. It should be a difficult game because they'll defend with obviously our back five. They're well organised, and they've been an overperforming team in the Scottish Premiership for a couple of seasons now. So not an easy game for Rangers on Sunday. I think they'll need a fast start to appease the crowd. I'd probably like to see wingers and maybe Matondo and McCausland, Cantwell number 10, Danilo through the middle, and depends what your options are elsewhere. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, Gil says, give them all paternity leave. So that's where he's having players that are having babies. And Tam McCann says, I'm listening to you guys doing paperwork whilst a 7-month is clinging to my leg. No excuses. Absolutely, Tam. You said it, buddy. Stuart Ferguson with the point, what time's the press today? There is no press conference, Stuart. Phil Clement was asked 3 extra questions last night, which we'll post on the YouTube channel this afternoon, just ahead of that game against St Mirren, but no press conference as such. Looking forward to that game this afternoon. There is plenty of stuff on the website though, folks. Joshua's got his piece on there from last night. Chris as well, his opinion piece on Ross McCausland, which I'd urge you to go and check it out. There's plenty on the YouTube channel. Also, remember, just if you've not subscribed already, now is the time to do so. £12 for an entire year. It ends at midnight tonight, so time is fast running out. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe to sign up. Right, Joshua, I think that will do us there. Thanks for joining us as ever. We'll be back on Monday. Well, Joshua, you'll be at the game at Ibrox on Sunday. We'll have all our usual pre.
Can't wait, Derek. Can't wait. What a treat that's going to be. You're not staying up for it, are you?
I'm not, unfortunately. No, I'm heading back down the road tomorrow. But it's been. It was good to get back to Ibrox last night. I've got to say, although the performance was disappointing to say the least, it was great to get back up in this meeting subscribers and viewers and all that as well. So fantastic stuff to meet you all. So good. Excellent trip so far. Heading back down the road on Saturday, but hopefully we'll be back up soon. Right, folks, that'll do us there. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Enjoy your weekend. Hopefully your team wins on Sunday, and I'll speak to you all again on Monday morning. Bye for now.